Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to be reapproaching Golgari and we are adding a lot of cards from the new set. This is the awkward part in which we maybe add too many cards that dilutes the deck and makes it a little less good than what it could be. But we want to try out the new cards and see how they go. So the things that we are adding is the Discover Lands. I am adding one of each. I wanted the combo with Blossoming Tortoise to kind of work well. So we are adding a black Discover Land and a green Discover Land to kind of go along with the Tortoise and see how well that turns out. And we do kind of get it online in one of the games. And then we are also playing the Preacher. This card gets a lot of value, and we do showcase how a cool little combat trick with this, with the Land War Waste, can kind of help you outvalue your opponent a lot more than they think you will. And then we have the Terror Tide, which is a board wipe that focuses on the Descend aspect, and the two black and green legendary creature gods that we got in the set. Outside of that, we're going to go ahead and hop into the game, see how the new cards do, and I give a breakdown on kind of how I like them at the end if you're interested. Other than that, if you all enjoy the content, please be sure to subscribe. I truly appreciate it, and I will catch you all in the arena. Thanks for watching. Our opponent goes first. I mean, we have 4 lands and a 2, 3, and 4 drop, so I think it's fine. Maybe our Trespasser might not find a ton of value here. Encampments? Ugh. Looks like we probably won't find a whole lot of value. We're going to get ran over if they start off aggressively and strong. I mean, realistically, I need to kind of draw cards to find removal, I think. If this can trade up, we can kind of do the same thing here. Maybe they'll allow it, and then we can use Graveyard Trespasser to eat something, but I doubt it. Well, at least that's like a Spirited Companion. Just all out attack here. That's what we can hope for. I think this is a mistake, but sure. We still have a lot of work we have to put in. Where we're going to have Graveyard Trespass come in, eat the Kami. And now we have our 3/3. We lose our Mosswood Dread Knight, but we don't really care that much. Because one, it fuels this, which we're probably going to need. We're going to need Tortoise to help with that game plan here. We're going to spread it out as much as they can. Enchantments are the only thing that get bigger. I'm going to let that 3 happen, I think. We might need this to block something bigger later while we get Blossoming Tortoise fueling the Terror Tide, which I think is the plan. That's 4. I can always attack with the Tortoise next turn to get it to trigger, so we'll just hold off. Plus I have blocks here. I definitely want to ramp to basically get them to flood out their hand. Maybe we'll get... I have no idea, to be honest with you. Verbal Confinement. Exile 3 or less until it leaves the battlefield. So they have to do Graveyard Trespasser. My graveyard, okay. I'm not gonna lie, I probably just let Tortoise go to make this 4. Another enchantment. But if they play another enchantment, I get kind of blown out, I think. Yeah, I'll take my 4. That's a lot of damage to take, but they have to do it directly. They don't really have a way to burn us. So let us attack with Tortoise. Sweet, we get even a land out of it. That's really good. And we kind of take away the flooding, so it unironically helped us out a ton. And then let's get this board gone. New card. You see them digging in there. They're going to highlight it. They didn't know what it was. There's my new horrible rare that I get to play. Team? I feel like that was an oopsie, huh? Let's play Lily. Let's plus Lily. I really don't want to exile like any of this. I think it's just the worst. We want removal for the Martyr that they didn't play, and then we want to play Shieldred and Graveyard Trespasser the next couple turns. Opponent was first, and they kept 8, or they kept 8. Kept 7. I think we have to maul. We have 2 lands and 3 cards in our hand that we need to hit 2 lands in a row for, and our hand's like really not strong enough to hold off that. I think we keep this, and weirdly enough, I think we let a Cottage go. I think everything else might be needed. Everything else might be needed. Did you lead off? What you got for me? Gruul? Dinos. Okay, go for the third. Going to be important. Do we have an answer for this? I think the answer is no. Could just kill it, but then we can't kill... We can't kill a big boy. Just... I meant to play the 3-2, but I guess we want to draw more cards. It's the hot of the cards. Hot of the cards, Yugi. I don't even know if I said his name right. We're getting hit for a bit. It's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to play this out, because I wanted to prevent kind of this like damage from happening. We could play Sentinel of the Lost Orb, get the Dread Knight back so we can cycle it again if we want. And it also kind of bodies what's in play currently. So let's go ahead and do that. Return card with Adventure back to our hand. We'll grab that. Let us see it. We have a 3/4 that blocks both your creatures. There's the big boy. We will remove big boy. We no need him in our throne. I guess we can wait. Right. Most likely not gonna have protection at any point. Doesn't have trample. Exile target player's graveyard. Mosswood's not in it. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Doesn't really do anything, and they can gain some life if they want. Looks like they're missing lands. Let's see if they think they're overconfident with this and double attack. They don't. So let's pop this out of the way. What I was hoping is they would attack, make like trying to force me to block the 6/6 instead. We don't have to do that. Now let's play one of the hardest stump cards for this deck to deal with in terms of Glissa. Do I just go ahead and remove this? I can handle the board, and if they're missing land drops, I think if end step rolls around and they don't play another land or a big thing I have to worry about, I will kill this. See, they play a land, so I would have immediately got hit. Although they are limited on green. Decklist is a hard card. It is incredibly hard to deal with. It did nothing, so I'm going to fire it off on this. I would assume their game plan was to pay to exile the Hammer Skull and then play it next turn, but I'm not going to allow that game plan. And I think I'm going to attack with the Glissa here. I would like to draw cards and then clear the way for a Shieldred. If they have removal. Let me draw. Will we see a chump here and a pump? Which will do nothing. They will have to have first strike. We see a chump here. Kind of wild to see a chump, but let's just slam the best card in our deck. Best card since it's been printed. Don't really have to do much else other than maintain the current path forward. So we know their removal is sorcery speed. You might be saying, like, how do we know that? Because we played it not too long ago. That is one of the problems with Dino, is you don't really, at least now, like currently, you have the baby Dino that can you can make a Dino fight. That would be this one here. When it enters, you can pay 2. Target Dino you control deals damage. I guess not a fight, but like they could have this come in, pay 2, have this kill the Glissa. So it is like former removal. Other than that, they just have the small 1 mana red burn spell that gets bigger with your Dino's power. But we are basically probably most likely going to crew up this cottage here and attack out. I don't really think there's anything we'd have to be worried about or concerned with, and we just attack big here and let Shieldred do its job in terms of every time they draw a card, just constantly drain them, and then we'll just play the value game at the late game there. We go first. Very nice. We'll keep this. A nice land to lead off on. We lead into cut down or go for the throat into Liliana, into a card that can help keep us up tempo. Let's get our force now. Liliana maybe not the best against mono red if that's what this maintains to be, which is what it seems like. I will remove that for sure. We could play Glissa. I think I'm going to play the 2/4, however. Kind of serves the same purpose as Glissa, but also can kind of draw us card, make us life linkers, which is nice. If we have less life total than them, and it has death touch, so blocking's not really where they want to be. But also, mono red blocking, yeah, right, buddy. Oh boy, we're back in our trolling mood. It is a 2/4. So the other reason we didn't play Glissa is because Lightning Strike is a very awkward and annoying card for us to have to deal with. I will block this because of us having 2 Lilianas in hand. Hitting the hand gets a lot easier in this case, or I could allow it and then just play Liliana, kill this, and then just make life linkers, get value out of our Liliana. Yeah, I actually like that plan more now that I thought about it, because they really wanted to kill this. I think that's why we saw such a long hesitation on their part. Stack. 1/1. Got a little life linker boy. He's chilling. He is chilling. Liliana will take out the Felden with this, and they can play with Fire or Lily if they'd like. Oh, now we fulfill the role of having a blocker. Liliana kind of needs a spell to remove it. So in this case, Liliana made them discard, not us, and took care of their creature. Sure. I would like to meet both requirements. Oh, if I block this, I gain a life, huh? That allow me to draw a card? Yeah, I actually like that. Trying to work with this card is a little tough. Attack here. If I have a higher life total, I'll lose 1, I'll draw a card. We'll hit. Liliana the Veil. Number 2.
Enough with the mysteries. Off you go.
And we'll play out a 3/2 to kind of protect Liliana from a haster, like Swift Spear especially. Now that all gets erased if it's like a creature plus Monstrous Rage or something. We could roll here, can make this quite aggressive. Or Treasure, play a Godric, but Godric's not possible at this present moment. Also, Monstrous Rage actually doesn't keep the Scoundrel around, which is quite interesting. And then hopefully our Preacher is able to generate the value that we want. Okay, that makes sense. We will probably recycle that, especially if it works our life total in a way that it made it even, but I don't know if we'll get there. Oh, y'all ready to see a really cool play? You ready for this? So we play Land War Waste. We purposely take our 1 damage. And we cycle this to take an additional damage to draw a card. Now we go to combat, we attack, and because our life total is exactly the same, we activate both modes of this, making a 1/1 life linker and drawing a card, hitting for a nice sum. And then we check their spells in their graveyard. Do we have one that we want to remove? I think Lightning Strike is reasonable. I could play Glissa, of course. Well, we're going to play Graveyard Trespasser and gain our life back, bridge the gap. Maybe they hit us and then both our modes are active again if I want to get rid of a creature, but I'm going to take the Lightning Strike out. The reason we do that is so if they hit their 5th land drop here, they can't kick the 1 creature and Lightning Strike our Graveyard Trespasser away. We've exhausted both our Liliana the Veils of the game already. Oh, they've had enough of the creature, the value creature. This creature has been so far impressive the one time I played it, and surprisingly, that was against Mono Red, which generally never the case. They hold back. Oh, we have Mono Red holding back? We should be so proud. Well, I don't want to cast a spell because I'd rather my Graveyard Trespasser flip, so let's do this and just hold our 1/1 back, because why not? This will come up. I want this to eat the creature. I don't really care about Play with Fire that much. I'll eat that, and then I will eat the Witchstalker Frenzy, because it's literally the only thing that can actually remove my creatures. And we're going to hit for 7 if they don't block, and then we have 3 life on the back burner here, plus a 4th life in the Vampire. I could just go ahead and play out the Dread Knight, but I will not, because again, I want it to flip to nighttime to make this bigger. And this attack and hit alone will actually end the game, because we have 2 more creatures to take out in the graveyard, which will ping them for 2. And then it just hitting as a 4-drop will do it. Although Mono Red can easily flip it back into daytime. So, is what it is. But we actually saw a new card take the fold and actually cause a lot of problems for our opponent. We go first. Sweet. And we have enough lands to kind of just like play this slowly, so we'll keep. Play Swamp. We'll hold up, cut down, try to get value off of it. Dinos, it seems. Yeah, so we can play Foundry here, and I will cycle the Mosswood Dread Knight. And we get probably the best card to answer against Dinos. That's what it is. Normally this land kind of tells us that's what it is. Now I could play the Nursery and pretend to play that, but I cannot. So we're going to play Glissa down. Glissa just has a high enough power or toughness to not get removed by their 1-mana removal spell without a Dino in play helping them. Or that one. They do have to cycle that, take their entire turn. So it is what it is. I guess, realistically, if this is the matchup we want to play, we need to play Tortoise and be bigger and better. Graveyard Trespassers, you would have been real sick to get these out of the bin so that their smaller mana dork cannot remove it. This is the one matchup I'm afraid of, as everybody's been doing pretty well with it, including myself. Recently, I did pretty well with it as well. Because of this. That's 3 mana. This is prime target normally. And here, it cannot. I know I'm talking about it as I have a removal spell. That's not the point I'm getting at. Let's play Sentinel of the Law. Cancel. Let us remove this. And because we're going to play around their mana dork, and we're going to exile their graveyard, we're going to play Sentinel of the Lost now. And we're going to return our Dread Knight to draw. And then we're going to exile their graveyard and get those out of there. And then we'll attack. Great. Glissa would have been nice, but we don't find it here, which is perfectly fine. Now, next turn, if we don't draw anything important, we can actually discover with the Nursery and then attack with the Tortoise to bring back the Nursery. Watch me sack this Nursery and hit a cut down and just be more upset than I probably should be. Please. That is reasonable. Let's do this. I will actually take that. That is a Death Toucher. Let us play the Glade. We can still cycle here. Liliana the Veil is a perfectly fine draw. Do I attack with Tortoise or not attack with Tortoise? I don't think I attack here. I think I actually hold. It seems reasonable to attack, but I think with what I have set up, if they just play a small dork, we get to cut down it. Liliana can come in, make them lose their 6/6, and then we do get a decently good attack. Luca. I haven't seen people playing Luca and Rhinos. It makes Dinos. Makes sense. As you can tell, I've been playing with people playing a lot of Modern. This does make only a beast, so it does not get to do what they would like, really. We made this play before. We're gonna make it again. We're gonna pay a life intentionally to get this Liliana down.
This is my home.
Most likely we'll see this 3/3 toxic guy go away. Now we'll move to combat. I want to get to Discover Land, I think. The Preacher will trigger twice. Good? No? I messed something up? Was I not? Is there a condition on there? I don't know. Whenever attacks, if you're tied for most life, make a vampire. Whenever... Maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought we were tied at 15. So both modes of this should have triggered. But, okay. Look at first. We have Virtue plus Graveyard Trespasser for aggro. And then maybe a removal spell. That'll be nice. So we'll try this. Still a little up in the air on this. I'm not necessarily a fan, but I'm not like not a fan yet. Might not be the right deck for it. We have a little too many instants and sorceries to get this kind of ticked up a lot. Also, some of our spells that are our permanents actually go to the adventure zone and kind of stay there for a while. So it does find itself in that awkward spot of like, it's just like good enough, but a little bit not good enough. A little push, a little shove. Diversify mana. Just Virtue this out of the way. Play probably Boseiju here, because even a cycle of Takenuma will fuel the tide if they go super wide somehow. We'll make it awkward on them. We'll play Boseiju, and we'll play Graveyard Trespasser. Because they can't really attack. They can't really get in on this, and it takes more cards out of their hand, which if this gets 2 for 1 out of cards in their hand, we're happy. If they have to attack and we block Swede, they make more tokens. Graveyard Trespasser blocks. Say that 3 times fast, please. And then they play with fire this, remove a card, it then killed a creature in play, took out a play with fire, and took another card in their hand. So Graveyard Trespasser did its job. Plus putting a 1/1 in the graveyard, or a 1 permanent spell in the graveyard, and our Terror Tide can then get rid of all the 1/1s that are on backup. But with a Shieldred draw, most likely we will play this Takenuma, we'll play the Shieldred, and we'll go from there, allow our things to do what they do best. But the mono red player is either in the tank or putting a hole in their wall, so we will come back whenever they are deciding they want to play. Never mind. Here they are. Look at them go. So fast. Absolute behemoths. Are we removing this? Sure. Would you like to discard your last card? They already played land drop per turn, so they shouldn't get the value off this at all. In here. Sure. Well, now we can play Graveyard Trespasser, which is completely unremovable. Or I play Liliana. I minus, I take out something. Then they kill Liliana, and then I play the Terror Tide. Or I just do the thing where we just play Shieldred, I guess. And then we let Shieldred block. We take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When they draw monsters rage here, it'll be lethal. Oh. Oh, it's not monsters rage. Woo! Good job, team. Although, kind of a problem now. I mean, do they have enough to bring it back? They do not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We gain life, go back. Yeah, I mean, I think this has to be block. Wait, did I just die? I just died. I knew I needed to block the Foundry. I didn't die, but I knew I needed to block the Foundry. Dang it. I even told myself in my head, I'm like, hey, they can pump that. And I'm like, no, they can't. No, they can't. I go to 4. No, it's nighttime. I can eat 2 creatures. Go to 5. I block, and I take 3. Minus take something. Let's see if we can scrape, I guess. I could have got Sentinel. I'm hoping to do that next turn. Play Sentinel, get back Virtue, and just exile something that way. 1, 2. Land is also not lethal. It's close. Because land, they double activate the foundries. And then they attack with them. But then I have block. Then block a foundry or double block foundry, and then I just get hit for 4. Yeah, so there's land. Not punish for the mistake. I should be at 2 higher life. But we'll see what happens here. If I can double trade out their lands, I will. Even though I would kind of like them to have the creature in play. But I think taking lands away matters whenever they have a top deck that can kick and play the card. We block like this, we go down to 1. Restless Cottage, very good. So green, black. Play Sentinel. Guess we exile graveyard, return creature, or return card, and we'll exile their graveyard just to get to play with fire out, because I'm not entirely sure I'm attacking with this. Or I can do it now, I guess. I think just gaining max life actually matters a ton here. That actually gained more life me holding this back, I think. Because then I kind of negate that. Mana not enough. Yep. Alright, talk about the deck a little bit. Let's just set these guys over here. Did not play them once. I don't think that we can play them. I was just like, hey, I want to play with new cards. Let's just add them all in and just make it a fun experiment. I didn't play any of them. I didn't play either of these. Not at all. I did, however, get to play the Blossoming Tortoise with the new Discover lands in these guys right here. This will be a little bit longer of an outro just because we have a kind of a lot of things and synergies I'll be going over that I necessarily won't be going over in the intro. But we had the Blossoming Tortoise, which I think I would probably end up cutting these anyway to go up to 3 on these and try to keep this kind of combo intact. But the Blossoming Tortoise coming in, making the abilities cost 1 less to activate, while also being able to bring back these. Now, we can activate these, do something, and if it even hits a Tortoise, for example, Tortoise comes in and puts this back into play. They enter tapped anyway, so that's a good little benefit for us. Moving on from this, without just dwelling on it too much, we did get it to kind of happen in the game, so it's kind of good enough to explain there. Terror of the Tide, I don't know if it is an exact kind of copy and paste replacement for the Path to Peril I was playing. I don't necessarily think it can be, as if we look in here, we have 20 creatures, which is a lot. However, you have to kind of minus 4 of those because they are Mosswood Dread Knights, and normally we cycle them to draw a card, which puts them in the adventure zone, so they're not necessarily in our graveyard. And we have 6 instants, also with virtues, as we'll see down here later. So it's a little bit hard to justify that. Plus, we don't really want our creatures to be dead, really. So kind of has that problem. 6 instants, a sorcery, an artifact. These enchantments, however, kind of fit that same role as they are the big enchantments. That they'll actually most likely be sitting in the adventure zone, so they will not be in the graveyard as well. And then planeswalkers and lands. It just felt pretty tough to kind of have this up because most of our early turns is this kind of removal package. Maybe get that Liliana in play, put a Glissa down, or playing a Sentinel and virtuing something a little bit later. That this is kind of our early game plan. So by the time we get to the point that we would like to do this, we have to kind of make an insufficient trade, which is like fine, but like if our board's better. We just don't want them to overwhelm us. We still kind of play towards this. And I didn't really like the way that this was kind of making me play in general. So I don't know if it'll actually end up making the cut. But let me straighten this out just a little bit here as we kind of keep talking. But Virtue, as good as ever. I think it's absolutely necessary to be either on 3 or 4 if you're playing this Golgari build, in terms of being able to help you in your mono red matchups. I'm still and continue to be impressed by the Sentinel of the Lost Lore card. And I actually think it got a lot better. I think having a card in your deck that against any Descend deck, for example, I guess the one that does the Obnixilis plan doesn't really care about Descend that much. There's creatures do, but realistically, they're kind of trying to play an Obnix on 8 loyalty and shoot you for 7 with that. But with cards that have Descend or want big cards in their graveyard, for example, the Terror Tide, if you're playing against, like, say, blue-black control, and they're kind of opting to play this card and maybe mill you a little bit with a Jace and turn this on, like, very efficiently, because for a 3-mana Jace, you can put their top 9 in there, which Terror of the Tide will most likely be able to remove everything in that space anyway. We can play Sentinel of the Lost Sword and exile our graveyard or theirs. Well, it's their graveyard, so I guess that doesn't work. Yeah, I think Terror of the Tide's bad. But Sentinel of the Lost Sword is able to actually exile our opponent's graveyard and turn this card off, or maybe other cards that are reliant on the graveyard, and those cards that are like, if I have Descend 4, I do this, or if I have Descend 4, I do this and this, and things like that, or other things that definitely require cards in the graveyard. Sentinel of the Lost Lore can help mitigate that as well. Card I was really impressed with today, and I liked it a lot. Every time I played it, it just kind of was this weird, awkward brick wall that our opponent didn't really want to swing into. But every time we swung it in, their creature wasn't big enough to actually kill it because it got that 4 toughness. That 4 toughness always tends to be that, like, sweet spot for a 3-drop that makes it very just awkward and hard to remove. That's why, like, Dryad of the Elysian Grove is so hard to deal with in things like Modern stuff, where, like, we have 1 mana Bolt, which is so prevalent, it just can't kill the 4-drop or the 4 toughness creature. 4 toughness is generally that prime spot at the 3 mana location that you really want, and the manipulation we get with it. As you've seen a couple of times, we used our Pain Land to even up our life total to trigger both activations of this, leaving behind the 1/1 life linking vampire, while also drawing this card. Kind of going in and out of those, bobbing and weaving with this card is very nice. And then just, again, the Death Toucher, the big giant Dinos deck doesn't really want to block with their 3 mana 6/6 into a 2/4, but the value you generate off of it, they have to, or you'll just overrun them with cards eventually. And then we have Graveyard Trespasser, which has always been a solid card. We have Liliana the Veil, which is definitely a really fun and solid card as well. I'll try to pull these cards back down back to earth over here. They're going out into space. But Liliana, fun. I think you have to be careful with how many of these you're playing nowadays. I don't know if you ever really want to find yourself on a 4 stack unless you're playing, like, truly card advantage lockout, where you're playing blue and black and you're just, like, constantly drawing cards to keep your hand very high. Or if you're playing a Descent strategy where you're like, I don't really care what cards are in my graveyard, all my cards get better if I have more cards in the graveyard, then Liliana is probably better in a higher clip. But here I'm on 2, and I pretty much like that number. I really do enjoy Liliana. I think she's too good she's too good to not play any, but not so overwhelmingly bearing at 3 mana that Mono Red just does not care. Or, like, even Soldiers, where they make tokens, they just do not care about this card. But whenever you can kind of force it in against control or something like that, they really have a tough time dealing with it. And then the ult is ever looming on their mind, and then they eventually have to do something they don't want to, which clears the way for other things for you to do. And this is probably to be the last card I talk about in this deck, because the outro is getting a little long. Glissa. I think Glissa has progressively gotten more valuable and better as sets got released. Especially because if your opponent plays a 3 mana 6/6, do you know what deals with that? Glissa. Because First Strike and Death Touch is not okay to put on the same card. This card single-handedly can take down dinos for the most part, at least in my experience. And whenever I played against Glissa, I could just constantly feel that ever looming gloom. Now, did I have the burn spell for it to get it off the board immediately? Yes. But if I couldn't, attacking always felt so awkward because they were just going to be able to block, get it freely, and then even attack me and start drawing cards and getting to their go for the throats and things like that. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed. It's kind of my take right now. I think immediately my changes would be to, even if it's just get this terror tied out, put the path to peril back in, or maybe something else that I might have missed in the set that's kind of a lower to the ground removal, and try to find a way to go back up on the Preacher. I guess realistically, because I didn't get to play him and I never really wanted him, I would probably cut these, go to this, remove this, maybe go up one to go for the throws, maybe find a 3 slot here, maybe slide that shielded back in. And we're on 26 lands, so then get this, and then we go back into that path to peril range, playing along with that Celeste that we want so much. And then we just get the Preacher and kind of slowly progress. It doesn't look like we have a lot of new cards, which is really true for the most part. But we do have one of the best cards of the set in terms of value that got printed. And we have the lands that kind of slot in fairly well with the Blossoming Tortoise. With these lands as well, might have to end up cutting the Foundries. I think the colored mana being tapped and the hidden nursery being tapped, that the Foundry can sometimes find you in some awkward spots where you really just need that untapped multicolored source. But there's also a path in the future that we add white or red and we play like Molten Collapse, or we play the new white card. It's 2 mana where it makes 2 map tokens. Get Lost, I think, is the card. But we'll see. I enjoyed this list so far. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and if you do, please be sure to sub. If not, if you have suggestions on things that you've been playing, please be sure to let me know. I will definitely take it into consideration. I appreciate everyone you watching, and I'll catch you around in the next one. Bye.